What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Brujo 101. I'm Martin Moreno, and I am joined by the contaminated, beautiful Thanya, aka Ashe, out here, COVID-free, but caffeine nonetheless.
Hi, everybody. It's not COVID. It's just a cough.
Anytime anybody coughs nowadays, it scares the shit out of people. As soon as you walked in and I heard you a little bit congested, I'm like, oh, fuck, dude. Did you get tested? What's up? What's going on?
I got tested. It's not COVID. It's just a cold.
And I'm going to say this not to sound conceited or shit, but I don't feel like it's going to get me, dude. Shit bounces off of me, homie. I'm just, it's that acid blood and I'm just protected. I'm fermented, homie. I've never gotten pregnant and...
I have, so I got vaccinated. And I don't think that COVID would get me now. I did get a cold. Mm-hmm. I want to blame it on some of your people who went to the show, but I don't know who gave it to me. But
so listen, today is November 1st, Thanya. The time is flying. It's I don't know in Santeria and in your traditions if you observe Dia de los Muertos or not.
I am so we observe Dia de los Muertos. The answer is yes.
And is that on the 2nd or the 1st?
We start Dia de los Muertos Inocentes, Dia de los Muertos. Like, there's different days for different dead people. There's kids, adults, dogs.
Are they all during the same time, between Halloween and the 2nd?
It's all between Halloween and the 2nd. So we just make sure that our altar is up like the 31st. We put it up. So we don't put it up before then. There's people who put it up before then. It's not a Santeria thing. My mother's from Mexico City. It's a big thing in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. So we do observe Dia de los Muertos fanatically,
but you observe Dia de los Muertos and you have an altar year round, and we've talked about this in the past.
Correct. So our altar that we have year round gets put with Dia de los Muertos stuff for Dia de los Muertos.
Okay, so it's a seasonal altar. Is that what you're telling me?
No, just for that season, because for us to do another altar, we have our altar. You've been to the house. Our altar is like in steps. You could see it on my Insta. I posted a picture of it so people could see it. So we just combine all our Dia de los Muertos stuff and leave it like that till the 2nd, and then we'll take away all the Dia de los Muertos things, because Dia de los Muertos is just an altar to honor your ancestors, and we do that every day at my house. We just go traditional flowers, traditional food, things like that on these particular days.
What are those flowers? The yellow and they're in English. They're called something.
Marigolds.
Marigolds. Thank you. And yellow
very
and orange.
I said the Mexican one first. I'm like,
yeah, it's like, why don't you say it in English, Joe? Because I don't know the chili, right? They stink. They do stink. So I had never set up a traditional Dia de los Muertos altar. My sister, this is the 2nd year she's done it since we found my older sister. And I don't know if I've talked about my niece. I have 3 sisters that I grew up with and one that I just found. Thank you, Pops. She is very rooted in old Mexican tradition.
Indigenous, right?
Indigenous, yes, with the Aztec and the this and the that. And she's always celebrated and observed Dia de los Muertos. She's one of the OGs from Olvera Street. Okay,
that's awesome.
And so she introduced my sister to the traditions of what goes on the altar, the cal, the glasses of water, the blah blah blahs, the this, the that, the different.
Oh, she's straight up indigenous, like the cal,
yes,
and the things like that. Yeah, we don't do the cross on the floor with cal.
She did that. She did it with flowers, and then they have the cal in a bag.
Yeah, so. we don't do that on ours particularly, okay. But I mean that's the correct indigenous.
And so for me, I never grew up with Dia de los Muertos. Dia de los Muertos to me was like a foreign concept. Like in my family, it was never anything that was. We knew it was Dia de los Muertos, but we just knew let's go get some candy on Halloween and call it a day. Dia de los Muertos, again, I think, and we talked about this on Yo Yo Yo, me and Huda were talking about this, and we've talked about it in the past, how Coco really took Dia de los Muertos mainstream.
Yeah, totally.
It's been around. I'm not going to say that Coco invented Dia de los Muertos, obviously, but they Disneyed it up and made it palatable for everybody and their mother now is setting up an altar, putting pictures of their dead relative, which is fantastic. I think that that's great. But I think that to think that that is the end all to it is irresponsible. I think that it is there's deep traditions in these customs, and not that there's a right or right way to a wrong or right way to grieve or honor your dead ones, but when you're talking about the traditional Dia de los Muertos per se, they definitely Disneyed it up and made it way commercialized. It's a big money-making thing. Look, Christmas, Halloween.
They're selling altars, ready-to-go altars that you can set up at your house. Like, I think they're Amazon or Target.
I respect the hustle.
And you could, it basically was like a pop-up. And then you could put your glasses. It's painted, like papel picado, all the bright colors. And, I don't know about that one.
I'm not a fan of that. And so, and now look, we started this podcast a few months ago. I started on a spiritual journey. I was thinking to myself, when did I begin my spiritual journey? And to be honest, I began my spiritual journey as a child without even knowing. Like, me physically trying to, in this phase of it, or this time period for me, it's probably the most evolved it's ever been. As a child, I was remembering the other day, I was talking to my sister about how as kids, we used to pray in bed. Our grandma lived with us, my mother's mother. And at bedtime, she would say prayers and we would repeat the prayers. And she would do the Our Father. And in Spanish is Padre Nuestro que estás en los cielos, santificado sea tu nombre. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, right? Now, santificado, I couldn't even pronounce the fucking word. As a child, I'm saying santificayo. And now I don't have a recollection of that, but there's plenty of people that were there that as I was growing up told me, oh, you used to say santificayo. Now, talk about indoctrination. Talk about programming. So that's when my spiritual journey began. I've also shared how then, I went through the Holy Communion. I did the catechism. I did church. I did confessions. Then I fell away, and then I ended up in a charismatic Christian church, doing the Sataracatashandas and things, speaking in tongues and getting baptized there, to then going full-blown atheist and saying this is all crazy talk, and not only saying it's crazy talk,
it doesn't exist,
but shitting. Which it was horrible and shitty on my part for me to shit on somebody for their beliefs, because I had been the experience that I had, and I'm sitting there, you brainwashed motherfuckers, what are you doing? This is crazy talk, and just shitting on it, to then coming full circle with it by then saying, okay, there is a spiritual realm. There is an energy source out there. There is energy in these crystals. There is energy in these beliefs. When I met you, it was a big transitional phase of my life. I had started burning sage. I had started trying to channel the energy of my ancestors without even knowing that that's what I was doing. But then I found some kind of faith there, not religion, faith and spirituality, as best I understood it, but still angry at the Catholicism. Angry at Catholicism for the hypocrisy, angry at Catholicism for the deception, for the way that it was used as a tool to oppress. And I think it was a valid anger to an extent. Then, I started off talking about Dia de los Muertos. I shared a little bit about this earlier, and I hadn't talked about it, but my mom passed a month ago tomorrow. She passed on October 2nd. And, you know, my mother was 89 years old, had been sick for a while. And when she got sick, I hit you up. You knew about it. I think we did an episode since then.
I think we did one.
But we didn't talk about it.
No.
And I didn't want to bring it up. I don't want to be that guy, you know. And again, there is no right or wrong way to grieve. Everybody grieves the way that they want to grieve. And we are in an era now, in a time in our society where everything is shared on social media. There are no more private moments. There are no moments of, you know, Carlos Mencia just posted a week ago. He went live at the cemetery. He said, "Hey guys, a year ago, I buried my mom, and today I just buried my brother." And then he went on.
Wow.
He went on to describe his thing, and I'm like sitting there, like, I, you know, there was a few comedians that passed a few weeks ago as well, and there was a lot of sharing of that on social media. There are very little private moments now with people. People share it now. I chose to share here, because this is a spiritual podcast, as much as spirituality is concerned, you know. And so I thought that this was the appropriate platform to do it. You know, my mother was very Catholic. When I talk about my grandmother reading those prayers for me, my mother did the same thing. My mother prayed that rosary her entire life. My mother was the kind of Catholic that in her town, she would walk on her knees to the church.
She would do mandas.
It was whatever it was. She was on a Sunday, just on a regular Sunday, on the way to church. She'd go on her knees. She had to have bilateral knee replacements at some point in her life, because that's a fucked up. I mean, I'm not saying that the kneeling is what did it, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say that. No, and growing up as a rebellious teenager, she'd always be praying for me. She'd always be doing the rosary, and my sarcastic ass would say, "What are you doing? Who are you talking to? Nobody's listening. Put that shit away."
And what would she say? Just keep it going.
Of course they're listening. He always listens. And her faith, you know, was that strong that she never, ever, ever stopped praying. When I started going to the charismatic Christian church, the evangelical church rather, she followed me. She found a Spanish one and went and did
a little
that.
Connection with you guys.
Now, when she got sick and she got dementia, she reverted back to what she knew. And that was all the saints and the rosary. And even in her sick, as she was sick, she'd always put a guardian angel on a pin on her sweater, whatever she was wearing, until she couldn't remember to do it anymore. And she'd always pray the rosary. She prayed that rosary more than people that have been in the ministry, in the Catholic ministry for the last 20 years. If you've been praying a rosary for 20 years, this woman did it. To who knows how many rosaries this woman prayed. When she was passing, you know, there was a lot of emotions going on, and one of my sisters said to me, "I'm happy that she went on her knees to church," and I said, "I'm not. That's crazy talk. I wish somebody would have said, 'Hey, lady, get up. Don't do that.' I think that's crazy." And she says, "You know, those rosaries, those prayers are why you're who you are." And I was so angry.
This is recently.
This is as she was dying.
Okay.
And I said, "No, it's not. I'm this way because of fucking drugs. LSD and weed. That's why I'm like this." And it just angry that she was passing, angry that she was on her knees like that. And I had to, I went in and I was talking to her, and she stops, my whole life she said, "Que Dios te bendiga." Mm-hmm. She stopped saying it when you know, when she, as the dementia progressed. And then I would go and make her laugh. I would say to her, Mom, yo soy el Santo Niño de Wilmas. She said, cállate, cabrón. And she would just laugh. She said, shut up. And I said, sí, yo soy el Santo Niño. And she'd touch me sometimes. She'd touch my arm. You're so warm, And I'd say, it's the Holy Spirit. You feel it?
Oh, my God.
And then I tell her that, she goes, you want to see a miracle? And poor lady, she'd be like, what miracle? What miracle are you going to do, you devil, diablo? And then she'd laugh. And then I'd say, and Chiki had already gone to go get her food, right? I go,
you're making food appear?
I go, ahorita, I go, are you hungry? And she says, sí. And I go, que ahorita, the door's going to knock and there's going to be food here. And you better praise me for my miracles of the Santo Niño. And then the food would come. And in that moment, she would just laugh her ass off. And I tortured that poor lady. But it was funny.
Liked it.
She did. And she laughed a lot. And when she was passing, Thanya, I went up there one day and I said, ya me voy. And she looked and she said, que Dios te bendiga.
Oh, she remembered.
It came back.
There you go.
It came back. So I went to a spiritual store down the street from where she was. Something told me, just go. And I found a rosary of San Judas Tadeo.
Okay.
I picked up the rosary. I took it home, had it at home for a little bit. You brought me a San Martin right around that same time. Before she got sick, you brought me...
I think right before she got sick.
Now, San Martin is the patron saint of the terminally ill.
Which I didn't know. I didn't know anything about San Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went to a store that doesn't sell religious things.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady had the San Martin. And I was with my mom. And I said, I'm going to buy that for Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom started telling me about San Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, San Martin performed a bunch of miracles and never wanted credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they saw him levitating and doing all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a story, I guess, that he was levitating and curing people. And that like a novice was like, hey, this guy in there is levitating. And that the priests were like, leave him alone. He doesn't want to be known for this. And I was like, I'm going to take that to Martin.
So I was named after San Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 1968. San Martin was canonized in the early 60s. Now, this is at the same time that the struggle for civil rights was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important to look at the historical context and the sentiment of the time. The Vatican, for what it is has always been and has always taken a political stance. And them canonizing a black saint at that particular time was their way of saying, hey, man, civil rights is the way.
Equality.
Yes, we're with equality, guys. This is the stand that we're taking here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which was, that the Vatican is flawed in many ways. But in that particular case, it's fantastic. Now, my grandmother, being the Catholic that she was, when my mother was giving birth, it was a complicated birth. They told her and my father that they're one of them is not going to make it. Either the kid's going to die or this lady's going to die. Mm-hmm. But they're one of them will not make this through this birth. Mm-hmm. So, of course, my grandmother started praying. And praying to San Martin.
There you go. And here you are.
And here I is. And when I was born, my mother wanted to name me Marco Antonio. My father wanted to name me Celso. And my grandmother said, I don't give a shit what you motherfuckers name him. He will always be Martin to me.
You're a Martin. Like, there's people you see and you can like be like, oh, I could see them being you're a Martin.
I think I could be a Tony too.
No, you're totally a Martin. There had to be some kind of religious connotation to your name.
Okay, that's fair.
Which reminds me of something that I wanted to tell you. I thought it was so not odd. Like, things happen so they can happen. Mm-hmm. The saint that you were talking about at the show,
San Simon,
and Saint Nicholas.
Yeah.
Which is why I named my son Nicholas.
Oh.
So I was like, that
The
is
patron saint of hookers.
the patron saint of hookers, and his church in Prague is really nice. But I was like, oh, okay. So, when you think your kids are going to be kind of wild, you give them a religious name, hoping it'll
Rein them
hold
in.
them back a little.
So then they name me San Martin. You give me this San Martin. I had a candle of San Martin. I had some moon water that I had made. And I have different moon water from all the different moon cycles. And people joke about the moon water and the this and the that. But I put intention into all that moon water. I had some moon water in some areas. And I said, this is for prosperity. This is for healing. This is for love. And I had the different ones. And I had some moon water for healing by San Martin, along with some Palo Santo, along with his candle. And a statue. I had a statue of San Martin. Okay, I got the statue of San Martin the same time that I bought the statue of San Lázaro. Okay. And I haven't told the San Lázaro story. This is not the time for the San Lázaro story, but that's when I bought that San Martin. There's something about that store. And I bring that up because I'm going to bring it up in a little while.
Okay.
So I get the San Judas rosary, and I take it to my mom's bedside, and she gets it and she starts holding it, and I would pray. I would play the rosary on Spotify, and she'd grab the rosary and start reciting the prayers as I was
I
at
didn't
her
know
bedside.
you could play the rosary on Spotify.
Absolutely. YouTube, Spotify, wherever the hell
Wow.
you know. Yeah. And so for every day of the week, by the way, Tuesdays is a different.
Oh, that's true. My mother-in-law prays with the TV. Like
Okay.
they do a live rosary, right?
Sure.
And they pray, yeah.
And so gets the thing and she kisses it, and she does her sign of the cross. And I'm sitting there, and as she's doing this, I'm just losing my shit. I'm crying, but I'm trying to keep it together. And I say to her, I want you to get well. I want you to go. I knew that she wasn't going to get, but I want her. I didn't want her to be
To suffer.
correct. And I said, I'm going to light a candle. Who should I light a candle to? Now, with her dementia, what do you want to eat? Anything. Well, what do you like? I like everything. She would never give you an answer towards the end. It was difficult for her.
It was confusing.
Correct. But she just starts rattling off saints.
Muscle memory, man.
San Judas, Tadeo, Sagrado Corazón de Jesús, ay, al Santo Niño de Atocha, San Francisco Javier de Magdalena, Sonora.
That one was a new one for me.
Same here, but I'm going to find that candle.
Yeah, the other three are like, I like those three.
And so I said, okay, now I had one of those. I had a few of those. And then I said, La Virgen de Guadalupe, that was her guy. That was her lady. The Morena was her lady. Her saint. And she was born on the 12th of December. 12, so she was a Guadalupana. Yeah. So her name was María de Jesús Guadalupe. And she, pues sí, like, of course. Like, I don't have to tell you that one, you monkey. Like, that one you should know, right? So I had the Virgen. When she was sick, because she had gotten sick before she, she got sick to get better to die. But when she was sick, I was on the road still, and I started taking with me the San Martin candle and some Palo Santo, and I would light it. And I would set I wouldn't sit there and say prayers or anything like that. I would sit there and say my intention, and I would try to send healing energy as best as I could with doing the rituals that I do. Whether they're right or wrong, it was what was felt right to me intuitively. And I said, I'm going to keep lighting the San Martin candle. And the woman got better. Okay. And I had then I started lighting the Guadalupe and saying, I'm going to light this one as a thank you for X amount of days. And because this is something that should, and here it is. Here's something that I'm fighting, that I've been fighting. I'm over here arguing with my poor sister. I'm this because of drugs. And meanwhile, mind you, because when my mom got sick, I have a picture of her in a frame by my bed. And as I shit on everybody for their beliefs, I have an amethyst that I had tied that I said, I'll put this here for protection for her. This fucking rock is the real deal. All you all's beliefs are fucking crazy, but this fucking rock here. Okay. Now, I then said, okay, I took the saint to the, so when she ended up in hospice, she went there to pass. I just wanted to be comfortable. I took the statue of San Martin. There was a rosary there. She lived with my sister up until she had to go to the hospital. The last few weeks before she ended up in the hospital, she'd be up in the middle of the night with her walker. And then my sister would hear her, and she could hear her talking. And she's like, Mom, what are you doing? Go to bed. It's 4 a.m. Mm-hmm. No, aquí está mi mamá Teresa, like, which was her grandmother, right? My mother was raised by her grandmother. My grandmother, I think I told you, was a single mom in the 1930s in Mexico. She ran a bar and a fucking restaurant. The lady was a thug, a smoking.
She was like a badass, right?
She was a badass. She was a bad bitch. My grandma, my great grandma was the one that was raising my mom. She, you know, aquí estaba mi mamá Teresa. She said, my mom, she's here. And I was like, that's fucking crazy talk. And so then my sister took pictures of her relatives. Mm-hmm. You know, like, hey, all the ones that have passed, she put them there. So now there's her relatives, a rosary of San Judas, and San Martin. I gave her the saint. Ay, qué hermoso. She kisses him. You know, and I'm sitting there like, it's a fucking statue, Mom, you know?
But if it would have been the amethyst,
I know,
you would have
right?
been like, yes,
and
Mom, yes.
So now I'm lighting the Virgen de Guadalupe, and I don't have a Santo Niño. I have a little baby Jesus one, but it's like an angel baby Jesus, not the Santo Niño de Atocha. Chiki finds the Santo Niño eventually, and I get the Santo Niño de Atocha. And I have all the candles except for the San Francisco Javier de Magdalena, Sonora. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm in the backyard. You've seen my backyard where I go out there and smoke.
The haunted.
And
backyard.
That room is where I do my wiki. And so I'm sitting back there, I'm smoking weed, and I've got candles lit right there. And these are religious Catholic things that I've been fighting tooth and nail, fighting it, right? And I'm like, and I just find myself laughing and crying at the same time at the irony of how it's all coming full circle for me as she's passing. And I'm like, okay, in her dementia, thank God she never forgot me or my sisters, because that happens. Mm-hmm. But also the saints, whether you believe in them, whether their power is so great that dementia transcends it. They transcend dementia.
I mean, I think that like the muscle memory of faith is so strong, right? Like I knew about your mom and I've given you my condolences, you know. My condolences aren't because I want to be clear about what I think. I think and I've told you, we're humans, we're spiritual, and we're living a human experience.
Correct.
And the physical is what's hard for us. That you don't get to hug her. That's the hard, right? You're not going to joke with her in front of you about McDonald's, you know? But that's what's hard for us, right? Because it's just a spiritual transcendence. There's a prayer that we say in misas, which are like seances, that says there's a very thin veil that mm-hmm. separates you and I. And that's all it is. And one day I'm going to break the veil and we're going to be together. My grandmother was a single mom. My mom was the 5th generation of women who had one daughter. So one daughter, till my mom. And my grandmother was never religious, used to shit all over religion. And I mean, she's from Mexico City. Came to this country to, you know, when my mom came and married my dad, she brought my grandma all through my like formative years. I remember her making fun of people who would go to church. My mom would try to get me to go to church because my mom was always looking for something spiritual, right? I realize now when you're spiritual, you try to look for so many things until you find what fits.
Sure.
So my mom was like in Buddhist temples. My mom was meditating. My mom was crystals. But at the beginning, my mom was going to church, you know? And my grandmother would be like, ¿Pa qué? ¿Se va a dormir? Esa gente? My grandmother would say, the priest who have you kissed their hand, you remember the priest? I remember being little, like my son's age or less, like 10, 12. And she was like, no le beses la mano, ¿cómo sabes que no se masturbó?
Yeah, listen,
and I was like,
I love that lady already.
I was like, oh my God, you know? So that was my grandma. My grandmother had a stroke when I was 20. It left her paralyzed. She then was like, she had to live in nurse. You know, she passed away 4 years ago on Christmas Eve.
Oh, wow.
Got sick on Thanksgiving, was sent to the ER. Something told me I need to go. I went, and, you know, they diagnosed her with stage 4 colon cancer. And she died on Christmas Eve. Before she passed, I would go see her, right? So I would go see her in the morning, and she was very strong. And I would be like, I need to talk to you. Because they were like, you need to tell her she's going to die. That's what the doctors told us. So I'm like, okay, I need to talk to you. I need to tell you something. And she's like, don't tell me nothing and go to work. You're going to be late. And I was like, okay. And then the next day I came to see her. She was like, Chucho was here. Chucho's my grandfather who's dead. I go, he was? And she's like, yeah, he was here. And I was like, okay. So I call my mom and I'm like, my grandmother's seen people who are dead. I look like my great grandmother a lot. The next time I went to see her, she started screaming and telling me to get out. Told my mom that I was there to take her because she thought I was her mom. Wow. Shortly thereafter, she passed away. So and before she passed away, she told me, call a priest. And I told her, are you drunk? And she's like, call him because it's going to make me feel better. And I said, okay.
That's powerful.
And I want to tell you, this lady had collares. She had santeria things. She wore them all.
The last thing she'd want is a priest. In Europe, you probably thought, like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Because she was, this is the same lady who told me don't touch his hand. He probably masturbated.
Yeah.
But what happens is it's a comfort, right? In her instance, I think she was scared and had never been religious and was like, oh, fuck, where are we going now? Like, where do we go now, right? But the thing is that people... You're not the first person who tells me this, and we hadn't talked about it, but I do think that the people who are in your family come to get you.
That's so.
I think that they come to get you so you're not so scared.
I listen. A few weeks ago, I would have told you, get the fuck out of here. But going through without trying to get too personal, because it's my sister's stories to tell as well. They had one sister. She's like, the dead people came. And I go, what? They came, and I'm like, oh, fuck me, like, you're losing your shit,
And they didn't even have to have a good relationship because the people who my grandmother
didn't even know them.
My grandmother was not raised by her mother. She never met her. She died in childbirth, and that's one of the people who she told me showed up.
Wow.
And she was like, she's here, and it's so vivid. She would stare at a corner in her room, and I would be like, and I would tell my mom, what the fuck, like, what's going on? And I would tell her, what are you doing? In Spanish, because she's like, ¿Qué estás haciendo, gorda? And she's like, no, ya llegó Vicenta. And I was like, fuck.
So this lady's out there looking for her grandma, right? And so we put the pictures there. We've got all the stuff there. We're doing the rosaries, and as I got the candles out, I start thinking to myself, like, I'm not gonna be hypocritical about any of this and say, oh my God, I've had this conversion and now I'm Catholic. No way. But what did happen is that the candles, those saints, the rosary beads that she put so much intention behind for so many years, so much energy that she put into it. And most of those prayers were probably for my crazy ass to watch over me. I then now find a communion with her in the afterlife in these saints and in that rosary. Now, I've never prayed a rosary in my life until recently. I found myself doing a rosary. Nobody told me this is what you do. I did it instinctively. I heard it done so many times that I could recite
Muscle
it
memory.
in my sleep. Nobody said this is how you pray a rosary, but I know how to pray a rosary. As she was dying, the picture that you sent me of San Martin, the room that she was in, I thought, that's this dude. This is this dude. So I put that picture of him behind a picture of her. I said, just it's symbolism.
Yeah.
But it was a comforting thing. And then I had the saint at her house. In her room. She loved the Virgen de Guadalupe. She loved roses. There's roses blooming in the backyard where Hooter lives that she planted that have been neglected for years, but they're still blooming. This is the kind of lady that would walk by, see a rose in a garden, cut it, pluck it, take it home, stick it in a glass of water, then stick it in the ground, and the thing would fucking be a bush in a few months.
Green thumb.
She would bring dead things to life, you know. Anyway, we laid her to rest on the few days of a week ago, and they started to think this thing when you pass called the novenarios, right? It's 9 days of rosaries. I've been to 2 of them. Okay. When my dad passed, I didn't go to none of them because he was atheist, and I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? This is not what he would want, and I'm not going to be a part of this shit, you know? But for her, it's what she would want. I actually led one.
That's good.
Because for her. Now, the day of the show, I took San Simon on stage.
Yes.
Right? Now, I had picked up that San Simon. Was it that day or the day before, Chiki? That day. I picked them up. It was San Simon's day the day after, on the 28th.
Yeah, and San Judas, right? They have like the same day or
something? They have the same day. I did not know San Judas had the same day, but I was wearing a San Judas shirt.
You were.
If you noticed. I would have done a thing on San Judas and San Simon, not San... So at Harvell's, let me just backtrack a little bit. I went up there and I just started talking about saints, and I started talking a little bit about my mom, and I got fucked up. More fucked up than I should have, but hey, I had just laid this woman to rest, and that was my therapy. To the people that showed up, thoughts and prayers, because you got a different type of show. Now, I get that San Simon, and we had talked about San Simon on the podcast. Me and Hooter had talked about San Simon on Yo Yo Yo,
okay.
And I talked about how this is a saint who is a chain smoker.
Like he's a heathen, right? Like he's very worldly. Well, we should also say he's not a real saint.
Okay. Correct.
He's not canonized. Like he's not recognized by the church.
But by enough
he's like
people.
Malverde.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. It's important to say that. So, but nevertheless,
he has a huge following.
When that many people put that much intention behind it, then it becomes that, right?
Anything that has energy behind it.
Correct. Now, what's fascinating about San Simon is that, you know, according to the legend of this dude, chain smoker, chain smoker, alcoholic, loves money,
steal your girls.
Well, the fishermen would take off on their expeditions, and they would entrust the chastity of their wives to San Simon, and when they were gone, he'd fuck the wives.
Everybody.
He'd fuck everybody, this guy. And I said, and Hooter said, how do we not have a San Simon at the show? And I thought, that's a fucking great idea. We got to have a San Simon at the show. Now, this is, and so it's going to be his day, the day after the show.
Martin breaks my religious heart every time. I'm like, who is this guy?
So I got San Simon up there. I got a San Simon candle, and I got the removed panties that I had got.
And he's Guati.
And he's
I
Guari.
thought he was Colombian. Chiqui's corrected me.
No, he's Guari,
He's a
yes.
Guari.
And I love that you said he's Guari.
That's what Chiki said.
My granddaughter now, because I told Liz, she says, what is that? I go, don't worry, honey, she speaks Guari. And then my grand,
Like,
like it's a thing. And so, anyway, I did this whole thing on San Simon, right? And now when I bought the San Simon, Thanya, I walked into that same store where I picked up the Lázaro and the San Martin. Okay. And those are San Judas there. And that's San Judas. And I had no idea that his day was the 28th. I grabbed it and I said, I want this San Judas. But we already had a bunch of shit that we're carrying. And I said, I'm going to come back for him. But it called to me. Like I said, this is the one I want. I was just drawn to it. I would never buy a San Judas. Ever. But for some reason, I got the San Judas rosary.
The shirt.
You got a shirt. And it was this day, the next day. And the next day, I go over to for the rosary for my mom. And my sister, by this time, has her Day of the Dead altar up there. Now, mind you, let me backtrack a little bit. There was a point where I'm thinking to myself, I'm losing my shit. If these are really, if I'm really connecting to a spiritual realm, I paused one day as my mom was passing. And I said, just give me a fucking sign.
Eek.
I did that. I said that because I said, this is crazy. I'm going crazy. I'm not, this is all, I'm making this shit up. I'm giving meaning to things that have no meaning because there were so many things that were happening that I'm like, okay, like, oh, holy fuck, look at this. Oh shit, look at that. And I said that, and holy fuck did I get a sign that night. That very night. And I didn't even realize I got the sign until I was walking back where I said, give me a sign. And I thought, I just got chills right now because I said, fuck. Again, maybe coincidence, who knows? But all these things started happening, right? I go to do the rosary at my sister's, and I see the picture. There's a picture of my mom up there, and the San Judas. This is his day now. Mm-hmm. The San Judas rosary is draped on her picture. And on the altar, there's a San Judas statue. The San Martin statue that was in her room is on the altar. There's a Virgen de Guadalupe on the altar. But there's also a San Judas up there. And I told Teresa, I told my sister, I said, hey, you put San Judas up there? And then she goes, is that who that is?
That's funny.
And I said, yeah. She goes, I went in my mom's room, and it's up when I was making the altar, and I said, oh, she must like this saint because he's here. Let me put him up there. And I go, did you know that today's his day? And she said, today's his day? I go, dude, you got his rosary on my mom.
And a statue.
And today's his day.
How rich is it that you used to shit all over everything is telling your sister, today's his day, that's his statue, that's San Judas.
The day that my mom passed was the day of the Ángeles de la Guardia, and then right around the same time was her grandmother Teresa's day. Anyway, I'm telling you, there's a lot of shit that I'm like, okay, you look for meaning in something, especially in a time of loss, and I was trying to like tell myself, like, I'm just going fucking crazy. So I had read about San Judas that, he's the patron saint of lost causes. Him and the Virgen de Guadalupe are the patron saints of Mexico. And I'm sitting there as we're doing the rosary. And they're both
I knew the lost causes. I didn't know of Mexico.
Mm-hmm. So also, if him and San Simon, the one thing they have in common, they like money. So if you give them money, they will bless you with money, right? I reached in my pocket. I had 4 singles. I rolled them up. I just put them up there. Nobody was looking when I did it. Everybody left that was doing the rosary. And one of my sisters looks and she goes, hey, there's money on San Judas. What the hell? And then they all looked at me, right? And I go, well, if you put money on there, he blesses you with money. So then one of them says, well, I want money. So she puts money.
What's it do?
So then the other one puts money. The other one puts money. My new sister, who had already decided to leave, got in her car, came back with money, and said, well, I don't want to be left out. Now
funny.
this dude is surrounded with freaking money.
That's funny.
Right. My sister's going through a bunch of old pictures. Just because she's going through old pictures, I get a text message that night after I left, and it's a picture of me and her as kids, and my mom in Vegas with her relatives that my sister had taken them to. And she says, "I'm looking through old pictures, and I found $20. So it's this $20 bill." And it's thread, and my other sister said, "OMG, Judas is already hooking you up." I could not stop fucking laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, God damn it, why didn't I think of that shit? It's just so witty, right? Now, again, just the whole thing, the way that it lined up, and the fact that Judas was in the same place that Lázaro was in, there's definitely an energy that's drawing me to this place and drawing me to these saints. Now, I do not, and I want to make it perfectly clear. I've talked a lot of shit, and I'm not that I'm sorry for it. That's how I felt at the time. And I'm not Catholic, but I am now focusing on all that energy that she put into those beads and finding a communion with her in the spirit realm, if that makes any sense.
I mean, so everything makes sense to me because I joke around with you and I'm like, I talk to rocks and,
And sacrifice chickens.
Sacrifice chickens and throw 4 pieces of coconut to ask questions. And I live my life that way. Like if it says no, I don't do it. That's how my faith is. Like before I got married, I was like, is this the person I should marry? And if it would have said no, I wouldn't have did it. So you have to I think that that's so funny that we're talking. So people don't believe this, but Martin and I we don't pre-plan what we're going to talk about at all. Like we live our lives and then it's like a text. I'll see you. Today, I was watching something about somebody who passed away who I knew, and he was a very big spiritual leader in Cuba. He was a person who was known because he would do ceremonies for Egun, for spirits. When people would die, he would help these spirits transcend. He was like famous, came out in documentaries. His name was Chacho Gaitan Gibaye. So I was watching that they were doing something for him because of COVID. They couldn't really do anything. And they were like doing all these little baby things for him. And then somebody was saying, when I met him, I would like look at him and I was like, this guy's so full of shit. Like he's singing out like, yeah, right. The guy was like really honest. He's like, but as I kept seeing him, I wanted to be near him. And the connection that I built was learning what he was doing. And now when I do these ceremonies, I'm communing with Chacho. Like that's our connection. He's like, because it's hit me so hard that he's gone. But every time somebody calls me to do these things that were so second nature to him, that's my communion with him.
Yes. And
so
wow.
I was watching that today and I was like commenting on it to my mom. So I think that spirituality is very personal, and I think it comes in different times. And I think that you end up where you need to be, if you're open to it and you're honest, but I think that we believe, Santeros, and what we practice in my home is when you have somebody in your life who's that faithful, religiously faithful, they're praying for someone. They're praying for, and I think you and I have had that conversation before, and I've told you, I think your mom prayed for you a lot. And,
oh, yeah.
So that connection, it's not broken. And maybe this whole circle that you did, meeting me and seeing like a different view.
Your mom said to me, one of the first things she said to me when I went to that misa was, you have ancestors that have passed that want to help you, but you don't let them because you're shitting on the religion. And now, to me, I was like, I took that in a little bit, and it didn't make sense until now. And it wasn't so much that they're like, este cabrón, he's shitting on us, we're not going to help him.
No, it's not that.
It's not that. It's that until I start being in that space where they were, when they were putting all that energy, it's hard for my energy to then commune with that energy. And it's not so much, I had to come to terms with that. And when my mom, like Chiki's family is very religious. And her mother prays diligently. And her mother prayed for my mother
Very nice of her.
and prayed for me as well.
Very nice of her.
And I I've, and this might just be me putting things behind something, but it may very well be that my mom waited this extra time to pass until I was ready to meet her in the spiritual realm with the tools that she left behind for me to meet her.
I totally think that's possible. And I want to tell you that I'm not the kind of person who thinks like, like when people say, thank God.
I'm not a fan of that. And I said it earlier. And when I said it, I almost said, what the fuck are you saying?
I'm not a fan of thank God. I think that you have to have action, purpose, faith. A lot of it is you. You know, I do believe in Olofi. There's a higher power. I don't subscribe to certain things. But when people tell me they pray for me, I've had a lot of people tell me they pray for me. I want to tell you I accept all prayers because I take that as a meditation and you're communing with your higher power and you're asking for blessings for me. So that's why, like, when you say Chiki's mom prayed, that's so nice of her.
Now, I will say that there is a difference between meditating and praying and things like that. I think that's the same thing. And the throwaway phrase of thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
I think it should be like,
how many people would that say
and
thoughts
action.
and yes, and prayers, yes, prayers, meditation, but the words thoughts and prayers get thrown around so much that they've become a joke. That it's become a joke. The phrase has become a joke. Not the thoughts and the prayers, but there's people that say it without even thinking twice about praying or anything like that.
Well, this is the
they
whole
just say
thing.
it as this is what you say.
We're in a spiritual renaissance. We're in a spiritual renaissance where being a witch and being some form of non-traditional spiritual is very in, right? So now things that are very serious and should not be taken lightheartedly are, you know, I subscribe to TikTok. I look at all these baby witches. I see all these things.
Hold that thought. I want to segue into that. That's perfect that you're talking about that. Hold that thought. And I just want to put an end cap to that. I just want to say that, you know, I spent most of the episode talking about my loss and made it about me 100%. But just rest in peace to this woman who I believe was a saint. To my mom, rest in peace to her. That's it.
We're going to rest in power to her.
Rest in power and in peace. She deserves peace. She had a lot of chaos. Now,
but I want to ask you something before we get off the topic of your mom. You guys put her on the bóveda for the Dia de los Muertos.
yes.
So we subscribe to the notion that you don't.
Okay.
We don't put anyone on any altars for at least 2 to 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Because we believe that right now she doesn't know she's passed. So right now, her presence is going to be very strong. The only thing that's going to be missing is the bones and the skin.
No. Her presence has been strong. It's been beyond strong.
Even if the person is sick, even if the person is bedridden, they don't know the spiritual plane to get to. Like, it sounds so stupid, right? But it's like the jump you have to make. I can't explain it any other way than saying that it's a big jump, you know? So we don't put, I had somebody pass away a few months ago who was very close to me, and I haven't put him on any altars because I'm going to do something called a levantamiento espiritual. He died tragically, and it's this thing, it's like a novenario, but for 9 days we raise the glass higher and higher and higher. So it starts on like a book, $2, $3 till you get to $9. After that's done, a few months will pass, and then I'll put him on an altar. Because right now, the spirit, our belief is, and there's nothing wrong with putting them on an altar. I'm just sharing what our belief is, that spirit is around and going to go a lot of different places and visit people at different times. And it can be that spirit decides to stay with you as a guide or divides herself. People who have a lot of light, and it's been what I've seen is my experience, is people who are religious, like your mom. They have a lot of light because they sacrifice a lot of themselves And once you tell me that she was like doing mandas, my mother's grandmother who raised her would do mandas on her knees. And that lady has a lot of light, you know, like when she comes through the misa, it's clear as fuck. Like there's no doubting.
There's no doubting.
We can smell her. It's like if she was there, you know? So that spirit right now is going to go a lot of places and go where she's needed. But I do think that things happen. It's so hard sometimes to give yourself to the universe and understand that the universe's timing is perfect because we want our timing to be perfect. And I ask myself, like with myself, like I'm so like, I'm a person who grieves privately. We talked about it. So I'm very careful not to step on someone's grieving. Like if you want to talk to me, I'm here. If you don't want to talk to me, it's okay. You know, when we spoke about your mom, I told you, you know, this sucks, but she's still here, you know, like I understand, you know, and it's fucked up. Right. And I feel like from the timing that she passed, I feel like your reaction would have been so different had it been at another time.
Oh,
and possibly
for sure.
It would have had like some destructive consequence, be it spiritually or otherwise. So I think that if for anything else, this is a connection that through ceremony and time, you can make so strong with your mom. I have my best friend passed away 18 years ago. I get in the car and I talk to her like she's alive. Like,
you know,
I don't have, it doesn't feel to me, and I know she passed. Her birthday actually just passed. And there'll be times in my house I will hear her the way she walks. I will smell a perfume she wore that I never wear. I don't buy on purpose because when I smell it, I'm like, there's no fucking way that perfume is in this house. I have gone to, she's only come up spiritually for me twice with two very good mediums. And I talked to her like she's here. And I told her before her passing, we had a conversation. We didn't know she was going to die. She died tragically on Thanksgiving. People like to die on holidays for me. I have like Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas. So I told her, if I die first, I'm going to come back and get you when you're ready to die so you're not scared. But if you die first, get me, bitch. I'm not playing. She died first. After she passed, I had a dream that she told me that she couldn't come to see me because the bus ride was long. Listen to this. The bus ride is long, whatever. I'm working at a bank. An Italian girl who doesn't know me comes up to me and tells me, this is going to sound weird. This is my friend Genevieve. This is going to sound weird. I bought you a ticket to go see this medium. I don't know why, but here. I'm like, what the fuck? And she's like, and just listen to him, you know? I'm like, okay. I get home and I tell my mom, I don't know what the fuck this white girl gave me, but she wants me to go see this medium. He was really famous, John Edwards.
I know John. I've heard the name, obviously.
I go to this thing. He gets on the stage. He's like, you know, I'm like, this is so fake, whatever. Gets on the stage and then people are like, well, what's death like? And he goes, well, the spirits I've talked to, you guys are going to laugh, but they say it's a really long bus ride. I got up and I left. I got up and I left. Started bawling in the car and said that person was put in my life just because I'm so fucking stubborn that I would have said this dream is bullshit. Who the fuck says it's a bus ride? Mm-hmm. But I had to hear it from this guy that did not know me.
Bro, when I saw the San Judas there,
what
I'm
the
like,
fuck?
okay.
And then you start saying, this is a coincidence. This is a coincidence.
San Lazaro, the same thing. I could chuck it up to coincidence.
But it's not a coincidence. And I think that spirits get so frustrated with this because they're like, you know, I have a bad mouth. So they're like, bitch, what else? You don't know this girl. She gave you a ticket. She doesn't know you from fucking Adam. I worked at a bank that had over 200 employees. Her and I are friends now. And she later shared with me that she like had these like psychic abilities and just felt like she needed to get the ticket was for her mom to connect with an uncle. Wow. And gave it to me. So I think that this like just saying it's a coincidence, I think we do that to ourselves too because we don't want to believe.
Yeah, because you just start thinking you're fucking crazy.
And then it's scary, right?
Yeah.
Like if the veil is so thin, like my mom is putting me in these places to see these things, to communicate, to heal myself. Because the first form of spiritualism is heal yourself. Heal yourself. And doing all these things, then what else is going to happen? That's how I took it. When he said it's a but, I fucking got up. I was like, I'm fucking out of here.
That's
I'm
powerful,
done.
dude. That's freaking powerful. I got to tell you, when you say that you hang out with her and you talk to her, you know, I have, you know, this little box that I have, it's a wooden box, but instead of this way, it's this. So it's like I could put stuff in there and see what's in there. Mm-hmm. And my grandma's in there. My friend Mario's in there. My dad's in there. I never put my great grandma in there, not because I didn't want to. I just never did. And I found a picture of my great grandma with my mom and me. That was just out randomly. As my mom was passing, I said, "Why this fucking picture's out? Why is this picture out?" You know, I have all my old pictures in a box. And when she passed, I put it in the back with some selenite. I had made moon water. That's a whole nother. I don't want to even get into that because it's just we'll be here for another hour. But I put it in there, and every time I make coffee, I pour them some coffee with creamer because they liked it sweet. I use my coffee black, but I make theirs with creamer. I put them the fucking coffee there, and then I have my coffee cup with my great grandma and my mom, like a fucking lunatic.
That's not crazy. We do that every Monday. Like, I'm laughing and I'm coughing because I have a cold, but we do that every Monday. So what you're being drawn instinctively to do, we're taught to do. Not to say that things don't need instruction, right? Like, maybe you're just putting the coffee, and maybe you and I will have a conversation later. I'll be like, Martin, you know, this is how you attend Egun. This is what goes there, you know, so they can elevate. But instinctively, you'll get a message, and you have to. And
I'm sitting there, and I will sit there, and I hear my mom saying things to me, and I hear, and I'm like, things that they just come to me, and I'm like, oh, fuck, man. You know, and by the same token, I then realized, okay, they're in here in the safe place having coffee. My grandma is with my dad, my friend Mario, Lemmy from Motorhead. All the party animals are out there. These ladies who live to be fucking 90 are over here.
Put them over here
with coffee. I didn't do that by choice. It just happened that way. And then I thought, man, they were out there doing what they had to do. They were grinding the way they had to. It's not that they didn't want to be here. And me, I'm balancing both of those worlds. You know, I've got that spirituality, but I've also got that desmadre up in me from my dad and my grandma. It's anyway. Baby witches.
Oh my God, I forgot. Baby witches. Be careful, baby witches.
You were talking about TikTok earlier.
Oh.
And then I said, hold that
Oh,
thought.
we were talking about blessings. Thoughts and prayers.
Yes.
Thoughts and prayers. So I see a lot of people posting a lot of witchcraft, I guess. Like American witchcraft. I don't know where this other witchcraft comes from. A lot of santeros. You know, everybody starts somewhere. You're obviously not born knowing everything. That's part of the... If I'm going to speak as a santera right now, okay?
Sure.
So as a santera, you're taught things gradually. You know, you're taught how to do different prayers. You're taught how to do different things because we cleanse people and we do things for people that you need to be taught how to do correctly. I see a lot of people who go and pay for a ceremony, be it done right or wrong. I don't know. And then they want to get all these godchildren and they want to post all these TikToks and they want to post, you know, all this crazy shit that I see. You have to be very careful whether it's a Wiccan, a Santera, a medium, who you're going to, because if these people have no base, no training, it's not going to help you, you know? And I think it's sad. I get a lot of people messaging me that they go to some of these people and they basically, in a nutshell, are getting used for their money and they're being bamboozled. And that's not the point of religion, right? The point of religion is spiritualism is supposed to help people. That's what it's supposed to do. If you go back to everybody who's a real spiritualist, like Edgar Cayce, Alan Kardec, people, you know, who really thought of themselves as spiritualists, they charged for their services, but their services worked and they didn't rape you. Like, that's not the point, you know? And I think that if you go to someone, you know, you should be careful of like red flags. Nothing is going to cure. If you've been on this planet 50 years and you come to me and you got 50 years of problems, and I tell you with this one set of whatever, it's going to get cured. It's not going to get cured. So I think the blessing.
And if you act now, we're going to throw in this other fucking next 25 years of your life are going to be stress free.
Perfect. You know, and look at the surroundings. Like, if you have to use logic. If this person talks badly about their mother, how are they going to talk about you? Like, and I want to tell you, there are some piece of shit parents. Martina and I have gotten into it before about kids' karma. How do they end up with these crack moms or whatever? There's a way to not be close to someone and still not lower yourself and say things about them, you know? So I think, like, I see a lot of this, you know, the first of the month, throw cinnamon at your door. I don't know. Don't ask me. Don't message me anymore, because I don't believe in that. Cinnamon is hot. It's a hot property. Wash your hands with salt. Okay, logically, why would you wash your hands with salt? Para que todo se salga salado? Like, what is this? Like,
because you're a salty ass
like,
hoe.
You know, we joke around a lot, and we, you know, like, Martin has candles, and, you know, Bitcoin or Dogecoin or whatever went up.
Shiba.
You guys.
Not saying it's because I lit the candle, but Shiba hit an all-time high.
So, but that candle,
ATH.
That candle's not going to cure your infertility. Like, come on.
No, and it's not going to drop. Like, look, the powder, remove panties. I'm telling you right now, there's no way. And this is what I said on stage. I'll sell you the remove panty thing, and it's going to work. If you want to remove your panties, this powder is going to probably have a very good success rate. Now, if you've been slipping into somebody's DMs 100 times and it hasn't worked, this powder is not going to do it. You know, and I think it's just the fact that it says remove panties that it's funny. I think it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Now, with that said, I think there are candles that you put intention to them. You put certain flowers. There's magic in flowers. There's magic in plants. There's magic in everything. And when you put that intention, then there is something that is there, because, you know, like we were saying earlier, it's not the necklaces. It's not any of that. It's what's inside you. It's either inside you or it's not. And it's calling you. If it's calling you, like,
I definitely think the intention, like you putting intentions to the candles that you burn for your mom, they're working. If I buy that candle from you and I'm letting your intention do the work for me, that candle's not going to work for me.
No,
either.
you have to put in the work.
Like, it's not. And then you guys have to understand that there's different forms of spirituality. I'm a santera. I subscribe to religious practices. There's rules and regulations to what I do. I'm old school. It's very different than a Wiccan.
I don't consider myself religious. I do consider myself.
Martin's going into the priesthood.
I do consider myself in a spiritual place, and the saints. And this might sound bad, but these are saints my way. These are saints. You should get a
shirt like that.
What's that? Saints
my way.
They're a conduit to my mother's energy and all the intention for all those years that she put. It finally made sense to me, and these candles are helping me
maneuver through a loss.
Yes,
you're maneuvering, and that's the
yes. Thank you for articulating that in a way that I couldn't.
And this is for you, and that's what the purpose is for you.
Saints my way.
That's the purpose for you.
It's not going to work for everybody. No, dude, listen. If you're sitting there lighting a candle to San Judas saying, make me rich, but you're a lazy motherfucker, you know, when I sit there and I say, bless me with finances, you know what I heard my mom say? Ponte a trabajar.
I see people who come and get readings and they're like, oh, you know, I don't know, my money doesn't last me. Okay, well, let's break this down logically. Well, you know, when I get paid, I usually go buy an 8-ball, and then, you know, and then I got fired because I drug. Well, hello, like, you're not doing. You need to get right with yourself.
You need to get right with yourself, and also and also find your path. everybody has a path, and I think as cliche as this is going to sound, but the signs are there, and sometimes when you say to yourself, and this is something that I read, it's not anything that I made up, but it made sense after. It didn't make sense at the time, but it said maybe the fact that you're looking for a sign
is the sign. I've seen that. I agree with that a lot, and there's signs that maybe not just because I do readings. There's been people who just recently somebody was going to get a reading with me. Mm-hmm. I talked to her on the phone. Before her reading, I told her, you know what? We're not a good match. I'm not going to work. I can already feel that your energy and my energy is not going to work. So respectfully, don't come.
That's so funny. We did a sketch one time, and I played a guru in a van, and Hooter was on the register, and he's like telling the guy's all frustrated, right? He's there for like some kind of therapy from the guru, anger management. And he's just getting more angry because fucking Hooter's just fucking with him. We never released it, but it just reminded me of. He's like, "Hey man, you need to calm the fuck down, because your energy right now is just, your energy told my energy that
this not gonna work.
This isn't gonna work." And
that was me.
And so the guy goes, "My energy said that," and Hooter's like, "Yeah. Hold on. What's that energy?"
I know.
Yeah. You need to buy 2 more of these. And then he takes the money out of his fucking wallet.
That's funny. Well, I did that without selling or anything, because sometimes it's not a fit. It's not a fit.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? You were talking about, you said baby witches. And it's so funny that that's a term, because in Christianity, when you first get saved, you're called a baby Christian. That's a baby Christian that needs to get fed the word of God, that needs to be nurtured, that needs to be blah,
I see a lot of these baby witches. And then, this is what I love. I just posted something on Ashe. I am so tired of seeing people say that they're going to kill someone, hex someone, ruin their life. I'm so tired of that shit. Like, I see all these people who subscribe to, like, Eastern European witchcraft, and they'll be like, it's an eye for an eye. No, it's not. I'm going to tell you something. Nobody has the power to kill anyone, and nobody has the power to ruin someone's life, because energy is a boomerang. So you better be careful what you're throwing out there. There have been people who have done things to me that are despicable, and I don't have any battles. I have no problems with anyone, because I have Orisha. I'm a crowned Olorisha. You have a problem with me? I don't have a problem with you. Take it up with my Orisha. He's with me. He walks with me, and he's going to handle whatever needs to get handled. I don't need to put you in a pot. I don't need to do brujeria to you. I don't need to do anything to you, because your actions and the karma that you are creating around your actions is going to take care of yourself. So all these people, I get people who message me, I want this person. I want my baby daddy. I want my baby mama. You are not spiritual. You're a person who's looking to take revenge and go above and ruin someone's life. What would make you think that anybody who respects their spiritual path is going to put themselves in that position? Are you crazy? That you're not God. Nobody is Olofi. Nobody's God. That's not how it works. So you could pretend that you're doing things, and because of you, they got a flat. But tomorrow you're going to get in a car accident, my friend, and you're going to wonder. Guru is a mirror. I mean, maybe you guys don't know that, but that's what Guru is, a mirror. What you throw out, you're going to get back.
I think, yeah, you shouldn't, if you're out there and in the name of spirituality, you're cursing and killing, all you're doing is hurting yourself. You know? There was a saying that my mom used to say, no hay quien al cielo escupa que a la cara no le caiga. You can't spit at the sky without it falling on your face.
Yeah, there's a saying in Santeria that says, la maldición del burro no llega al cielo.
There you go.
You're not going to get nowhere maldiciendo people for whatever reason. Like, that's not spirituality. Spirituality begins with you. The situation that Martin is going through, where he's finding his own spirituality, that's spirituality. Not, oh, let's fuck up this comedian who looked at me sideways. Are you crazy? Come on
wiki
now.
Motherfuckers.
Come on now.
I watch the Christian broadcast news.
Much to my dismay.
I just want to see what they're up to. And
You're keeping tabs on them.
I am. And the other day because it's Halloween.
Oh, that's
and
right.
There's such a resurgence. Then this ties into what you were just saying. There's all these baby witches out there. So they're saying there is a movement and Satan is moving and there's more witches now. Things that people would never say I'm a witch that you would get burned for. Now they're happily proclaiming their witchcraft to God's dismay. And so they were interviewing a former witch who was sitting there talking about how, she was bullied, she was picked on, and then she went to a slumber party, and then they watched the movie The Craft. And on The Craft, the
This is not true.
I'll send you the clip.
Oh my God.
And so when she saw The Craft, she said, hey, I want to do that too so I could be fucking liked and popular. So then she started doing these spells. And
The Craft, a movie which bases itself around those girls doing mean things to people who did things to them.
Correct. And so she then says, I started doing my thing. And then I befriended these girls at the slumber party, and then we were doing our rituals, and it was called blah, 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 and yada, yada. And I was so lost that I started using drugs, and I started becoming an alcoholic, and I started channeling energy from chakras, which is so taboo. And then I started burning sage to cleanse my home. And then I started messing with crystals for power. And now I know that the only power is in the blood of Jesus, and that if you want your house cleansed, you call on the name of Jesus. If you want energy, you don't go to chakras, you don't go to crystals, you go to one source, and that's Jesus. And my message is, I want to get everybody out of this witchcraft. And I'm sitting there like, hey man, we have energy points in our bodies. This is in our spirit. There's different areas that let in different things, and sage, for crying out loud, has been scientifically proven to disinfect. It kills the shit. Now, when you use it in the Aztecs, the Mayans, all these ancient people were burning sage, were burning copal, were burning all these things way before these crazy. Okay, I'm gonna stop saying crazy and shitting on people, but these are old school traditions that have been around. These are herbs that have been used by the natives for fucking probably millennia.
There are ceremonies that were around before the Bible.
Yes. So to dismiss it as witchcraft, and the connotation of witchcraft, anything that is not Christianity or Bible based, is all of a sudden witchcraft and horrible, and that's of the devil. Man, stop it. Don't let anybody take away your traditions, your customs, your beliefs. If it works for you and it makes you better, then tell them to suck your fucking dick or eat your ass or whatever the fuck you want to say.
Or just do what you got to do. Don't say any of that.
Just say thoughts and prayers.
Just do you. Hashtag blessed. Just do you.
All right. You got anything else? You good?
Oh, I'm good. Oh, I want to thank Jairo and Dolores who gave me this crystal at your show. It's very nice. Thanks, guys. Very nice. Thank
you to everybody that showed up to the Harvell's thing. We're gonna start doing more things where with spiritual things. I think there's I want to take away the scariness of spirituality and the taboo of anything that isn't what you grew up in a church. As religious as my mom was, she had Cuban friends.
That's funny.
And she used to put egg whites into a glass of water for clarity from Santa Clara. That is a bit of Santeria, I think.
That's a big bit of Santeria. We as
And
spiritualists do it all the time.
And so my grandmother messed with añil, which is also used in a lot of, so there was a lot of intermixing of these things. So as faithful as she was, there was a lot of other spiritual elements that were incorporated into her life. And I think that that's why I dabble in as many things as I dabble. And if it works for you, as long as you're not hurting anybody, don't let them shame you from doing it. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Brujo 101. And let's take the taboo out of spirituality, because at the end of the day, it's all spirituality and it's there to elevate us. And we're gonna start meeting up with you fuckers and elevating our spirituality and yours. And it's okay to say fucker. You're not gonna go to a burning place for eternity because you said the F word. Fuck it. Stay blessed.
Fuck it.
Thank you.
Thanks.